Hey guys, Jonathan for Just by Tech, and in today's video I'm kind of actually changing it up. So I finally received some comments in the comment section and I want to respond to that and kind of do a quasi podcast style episode. This is something I could do kind of on a weekly, kind of in between when I'm making other videos. So something simple enough where I can answer questions and kind of get back to my podcasting roots, because I used to do a podcast. So, Jonathan for Just by Tech, so let's do this. Right now, the biggest things in tech right now has been the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Everybody is hating on it, stating that the Fold was a flop, it wasn't even worth time, this is not the future. And before we do anything, disclaimer, I was not going to get the Fold. Right out the gate, I didn't feel that it was first gen tech, but I do feel that it's something that I'd probably get second gen, maybe third gen. Depends if they can resolve everything in this first delay and they actually release it this year, which fingers crossed. I like the concept. It's a foldable phone and it gives you that candy bar feel back like in the old Nokia days, which used to have the Nokia, used to actually have a Motorola, I forget what it was called, but it was actually the first iPhone technically because it had iTunes built in. So it's reminiscent of the candy bar feel, yet still gives you a tablet. And the biggest thing that I run into is I've got the S10 Plus, and I love this phone. It's nice. It does what I need it to do, but I've always been like kind of a Note person. I've gone back and forth between the Galaxies, and it wasn't until probably I could say the S4 that I finally took a chance and went and got the Note 4. So that was the very first Note that I was willing to purchase. So I guess you could say it took 4 iterations, but that was back when Samsung really didn't bring the quality that they do now. The quality and the craftsmanship that they have now is much better as opposed to how they used to do it. I mean, removable batteries, which are great, but the build quality. I've got a Note 4 with me, actually not in the office right here, it's upstairs, that has seen better days. But that's where I kind of went back and forth, smaller phone, bigger phone. Every iteration, I went from the Note 4, I held on to the Note 4, I went to the S6. Was my next switch because I really didn't like the S5. It bothered me, just that band-aid look. It was not feeling it. I went to the S6, S6 Edge, and then S7 Edge. So I stayed with the bigger phones, and then I got the Note 7, which honestly, that was a great device. It really had everything that you wanted. It was the first edge-to-edge phone, minus the top and bottom, when they still had to keep the home button. And great device. It just, quite honestly, the battery issue, aside from that, great phone overall. And I had it through every recall. So always wanted to accept new tech. So I've gone back and forth. And the Fold really brings a concept that I think we're all going to kind of embrace, is that having a phone that can be a phone and can be a media consumption device like a tablet when you need it to. That's one thing that I kind of long for, because I've been going back and forth ever since the Note 7. I went back to the S7 Edge, then I got the S8, and then I got the Note 8, and then I got Note 9, but I'm back at the S10 Plus. So it's one of those things that you just kind of want both sizes. And the folding device, if they can get it right, it's really, what's the word I'm looking for? Really compelling, because of the fact that you can actually have 2 devices in one. On the Fold, I really hope it succeeds. Huawei, if they've got the right design, I hope it succeeds. I just want folding technology to advance, but all the shortfalls with the fold, I've got a 2-year-old, soon to be 3, and I've got kids, so whenever I pass them the device, I can't worry that every time they touch it, they could possibly break it. And that's definitely not the average consumer, which we all know at that price point, it was not meant for the average consumer. But you have to target even business professionals or tech enthusiasts at a higher price point. They still have kids. They still have idiots in their life. Not to say that kids are idiots, but they still have individuals that may not know how to work with the device. So you've got to be cognizant of that. So Samsung, I'm hoping. Next, talking about the iPhone 11. A lot of designs have been leaked, and it's kind of the newest trend, is that designs just get leaked. Nothing stays true. It's not like back in the day where you wouldn't know, everybody speculated, but the design would hold true until the end. It seems like everybody's got an end. It's almost, it makes me miss leaks or the secrecy with leaks just a little bit more, because every time you see it, it's almost identical, if not spot on to what's coming out. It kind of kills the allure of getting leaks. We've been spoiled. But with this new design, with Samsung going with the 3 camera setup, Apple wants to follow the trend, which, I mean, hey, you could argue they do it last, but they do it best. This design, I'm going to say, I kind of agree with JTL over at Painfully Honest Tech. Yeah, barf. This is ugly. I know it's kind of redundant, that camera bump, but this takes it to a whole nother level. You've got the square design, you've got the 3 big lenses, but new designs came out over at Boyd Genius Reports, and the biggest issue that I found is that not only do you have the square camera hump, but you also have little humps for each of the cameras. So it's like my humps, my lady humps. Okay, either way, yeah, for the 90s references right there, or early 2000s, either way, Google it. But it's one of those things like, come on, Apple, this is the one time you kind of could have just continued your original design, because we all know how the camera setup is on the iPhone XS and XS Max, where it's a vertical shooter and it's got 2 cameras, it's got the lens. Just drop another one below it. Unless this really brings a increased camera on each of those lenses, I would say this is a fail. Because I mean, even to reference like Brian Tong, bad Apple. It's really, really bad. I don't agree with it. Apple usually, it doesn't matter how nice the materials are, that camera hump is hideous. So going with that, I hope Apple does change the design. If you're not going to change the design of the camera hump, give everybody the LED Apple logo on the back, and maybe it'll smooth over some fans. I think Apple has to really pick up things, and they've got to catch up. A lot of their designs seem like they're lacking, and some of it's starting to look like it's being forced out there. RIP AirPower. So enough about Apple. Last but not least, I want to actually talk about the comments. I got a couple comments. One from Jonathan Peach, great name. Anyways, he wanted to ask about the Note 9 and some of the updates with the One UI going from Oreo to Pi. I've seen nothing but pluses, no minuses. It's improved overall performance. The camera's been great. I was going to actually use the camera here, but I've got a 2-year-old that's really in dire need of that, and we also are in dire need of not hearing her. Anyways, moving forward, it's a great camera. The phone is great. It was my phone that I was using, but I decided to go to the S10 Plus. So I would highly recommend that. You also gave me a great idea for a new video, so I'll definitely be utilizing that. So thanks, and I'll give you props in the next video. The next comment actually comes from, I'm sorry if I don't say it correctly, Shahim Ali. So he's trying to record a soccer game on his Note 9 with the Zhiyun 4. I'm assuming that's the Smooth 4, which I just happen to have here. And you're trying to asking for suggestions on what kind of setup. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I did not realize that the Note 4 can actually film at 60 frames per second and 1080p and 4K, which was a pleasant surprise. That's one of the things that I wanted, and I have in the S10 Plus, but most recently I believe it was updated. The one thing that you want to do, bring up the camera app. It's going to be the same in the Note 9. So what you want to do, you actually want to go to the settings menu, and I'll kind of do screenshots off to the side. What you want to do, you want to go into your rear video size, and under 16:9 go into resolution, and then choose UHD at 60 frames per second, or go with 1080p, which is FHD at 60 frames per second. Now if you want, let's see how would I phrase this, if you actually want to record everything, it's nice and bright, I would just go with 1080p at 60 frames per second, just for the fact that the file size is going to be smaller. It's going to be easier to edit. It doesn't matter how long you go, you're not going to run into storage issues or transferring the files over to your computer, whatever computer you're using. You'll be able to edit it a lot easier. And for the most part, if you're using anything out of the box for the Zhiyun ZY Play app, I don't believe that it allows for the 60 frames, but I could be wrong. And the reason why you want to go with 60 frames is because you're getting 60 frames per second. The norm, like this video right here, this is 24 frames per second, but I'm not moving, so I want to give it that cinematic feel. I don't have to worry about motion blur or anything. You want to get as many frames per second so you can capture the action. The reason why I mentioned the ZY Play app is because if you go into it and you utilize it, so the reason why I would mention this is that if you can't use your ZY Play app, then you want to use a default camera app. In here, let's see if, so that confirms it. In the ZY Play app, it's not allowed to film at 60 frames per second. I wasn't aware of if Samsung locked it down on the S10 Plus or the Note 9, but it has locked it down. So I would recommend actually using the camera app directly through Samsung and filming at 60 frames per second. Now the only thing you're going to lose, you're not going to be able to use some of the menu triggers that are on the Smooth 4, but you'll still be able to film and you'll still get the quality that you need. Now the next thing I would recommend using, I think it's a quick action release, is the bottom trigger. You've got it in pan follow mode. Actually, it's the top trigger. So that way you're not killing the motor. You've disabled the motor in a sense. So with that being said, guys, I thank you for always watching the videos. Continue to leave comments, and I'll try and do these deep dives into the news, kind of like podcast-esk videos on a weekly basis if I can get them out. And if you guys liked these videos, go ahead, hit the like button. If you really like these videos, hit the subscribe button. And as always, let's get social. Hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So as always, for Just My Tech, I'm Jonathan Her, and I'll catch you in next. Peace.